Greetings, New Zealand naturopath Eric Bakker again, author of Candida Crusher and formulator of the CanXida range of supplements. Thank you as usual for checking out my video. I really appreciate you checking out my video. We're going to today talk about tea tree oil, in particular Australian tea tree oil. So Australian tea tree oil has been around for a long time. And in fact, the Australian Aborigines, the indigenous population of Australia, have been living in their continent for what they reckon about 60,000 years. So a long time. Some particular tribes migrated from Asia down Gondwana land when all the continents really were still formed as one big landmass, and they drifted apart, and the Aborigines basically started to really camp out in Australia. And naturally they started to use all kinds of different plants, animals and different things for medicines. And we believe that tea tree oil, Australian tea tree oil, has possibly been used for tens of thousands of years, for a long time. And the indigenous peoples, like many people, gained a lot of this wisdom empirically, which they passed down from generation to generation. So tea tree oil, the Australian tea tree oil, Melaleuca alternifolia, has always been traditionally used really for respiratory tract infections, where they would crush the leaves and boil it in water and inhale that. They would use it on cuts and wounds and bites. Spear wounds were quite common, also bites from animals and infections. So the Aborigines used this quite wisely. And in 1923, there was an Australian government chemist by the name of Arthur Penfold. And back in the 20s, a very popular antiseptic to use by doctors was something called carbolic acid. And what Mr. Penfold discovered when he analysed all these different natural plants is that the Melaleuca alternifolia was 9 to 10 times more potent as an antiseptic agent than carbolic acid was. So the government became very excited, and by the 1930s and 40s, it was in widespread use throughout Australia. All houses contain a bottle of tea tree oil. This was pre-pharmacy days, really, when all the chemical companies started profiting. So people used it for sore feet and ulcers and blisters and infections and sunburns and insect bites. They used it for all kinds of stuff. Gum diseases was popular, tinea, Vathles foot jock itch. It was a normal medicine used. And in fact, it was so effective that the government basically had every soldier take a bottle of tea tree oil away to war to be used for all kinds of infections. And then, of course, when pharmaceutical companies became big, it basically just about all died off. And then by the 1960s, the tea tree oil industry was all wiped out. In 1976, there was a guy called Eric White, and what Eric did is he wanted to revive this industry, knowing how powerful this product really was. So he searched around and found this particular part of northern New South Wales called Bangerwellan Swamp, a particular swamp which he thought would be the best area for growing the ultimate Australian tea tree oil. So he lobbied for up to 4 years with the local government to try and get a crown lease on this land. And eventually he got this lease on a Thursday. So they called it Thursday Plantation. That's where the name of the company comes from. And I love this story. And I really support this company, and I think it's a fantastic product. So Thursday Plantation, Australian tea tree oil. I may have a bottle of it lying around in my cupboard. I usually keep a bottle. And I think it's one of the most amazing of all natural medicines you can use for fungal diseases. Research in Western Australia in the 1990s, I think it was, showed that tea tree oil gel, particularly on tinea, was more effective than any kind of pharmaceutical medicine to be used. Particularly with Candida. It was number 1 for Candida out of anything, including even Lamisil. Lamisil was a little bit more powerful for Trichophyton rubrum, which is a particular fungal species we find with jock itch, or particular kind of foot fungus, especially tinea. But when it came to Candida, it was number 1. Nothing can beat tea tree oil in terms of its potency. So particularly it's really used for external application. I've got no doubt you could use it internally like oregano oil, a drop at a time. And I often take it myself internally, but it's not something I recommend for the average patient. to do. So, but oregano oil, food grade, should be perfectly fine to do. Not quite as potent as the Australian tea tree oil, but I would say pretty well much of a muchness. So, but we have got certain types of oregano now that we found in the Mediterranean that actually exceed the ability to kill fungi that tea tree do. They've only been discovered probably the last 5 years or so. So what can you use Australian tea tree oil for? Well, if you look at chapter 5 in my Candida Crusher book, it's a perfect thing to use for vaginal cleansing. You used to be able to get a water-soluble version, but it's very hard to get now. But you can still add a few drops to quite warm water and then let it cool a bit and use that as a douche. You can also use it on feet. You can use it for jock itch. You can use it for ear. You can use it for scalp. You can use it for nails. It's very good for toenail. You put 1 drop every day on the toenail bed. It will slowly penetrate and get in around there, and it will get rid of quite stubborn infections. So topically, it's fantastic. This company, Thursday Plantation, makes soaps, shampoos, all sorts of moisturizers. So you can certainly use it on your skin. I use it for acne for people, cuts, bites, burns, stings, anything like that at all. It's a superb product. If you do use tea tree oil, make sure you use Australian Melaleuca alternifolia. It has a very characteristic smell about it. Do hunt down the Thursday Plantation. It's quite a good one to use. So I hope that gives you a bit of an insight into Australian tea tree oil and Candida. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to click on the link below this video in the description box and you can get my free Candida report. And if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for tuning in.